Gamelan is the gateway drug to Indonesian music. Even people who aren't necessarily interested in traditional music or in Indonesian music, people often, if they know anything of Indonesian music, they will have heard of gamelan.
That's how Palmer Keane, the motorbike-riding, Bahasa Indonesian-speaking, self-described DIY ethnomusicologist from America, was introduced to the world of traditional Indonesian music. Palmer is an American from California who came to Indonesia kind of through the Central Asian country of Kyrgyzstan. His twin brother, actually the pair are part of the family's quadruplets, was studying eagle hunting in Kyrgyzstan and invited Palmer to come live with him after college.
So I graduated with a literature degree, and as many people who graduate with a literature degree, I didn't really know what to do with my life. So I ended up moving abroad to Kyrgyzstan for a while.
So Palmer picked up his life and went. He found that he loved living in a new country and discovering new cultures, so he became an English teacher because he thought he could travel the world. He chose Indonesia because of gamelan, which he had studied in college.
But I truly knew nothing about Indonesia. Like, I knew about the music. I knew more about the music than I did really about the country.
Now, Palmer has been living in Indonesia for almost 7.5 years and has been the researcher behind the ethnomusicology blog Aral Archipelago. Palmer travels around Indonesia in search of different groups' traditional music, which are often at risk of disappearing.
There's a number of factors, but in general, a lot of the people who play the music that I'm researching are old, and it's almost always old. Mostly men, so mostly old men. And often, yeah, that's the problem. Often this is music that's not being played very much anymore, or if it is, it's still just an older generation who's interested in it and who's playing it and who's keeping it alive. And often the expression that they're using is the generasi penerus, like the continuing generation. Just there isn't a continuing generation. There isn't a generation to keep the music alive.
It's true that traditional music across Indonesia is at risk if the younger generation does not pursue learning it.
Of course, Indonesia is really rapidly modernizing, industrializing, globalizing, right? All of these are forces that are pushing not just young people, but all Indonesians, all people across the developing world, right, away from kind of traditional ways of life, right? And traditional music is often embedded in traditional ways of life. So when you're moving away from that traditional way of life into more global, industrialized, non-agricultural, non-ritual ways of life, yeah, often then that music ends up being left behind too.
Some of Palmer's recordings may be the only digital recordings of certain kinds of music, and his goal is to document that music before it's gone, and to share it with the world. He's been from West Java to East Nusa Tenggara, from Sulawesi to Kalimantan, searching for music wherever he goes. Although Indonesia is an incredibly diverse country, he said he's found some similarities in its music across different groups.
You have styles of singing that you could say are broadly specific to East Nusa Tenggara. Like, you could find singing styles that are in Flores that are very similar to singing in Timor, which is very similar to singing in Sumba. So that's what's interesting about Indonesia, is that you have so many similarities, but it's also an incredibly diverse place.
Another thing that some of the groups have in common is the risk of the music disappearing as technology disrupts traditional ways of life. But Palmer said that some younger people are still playing some of the traditional music in ways that are fun for them, like Music Patrol during Ramadan.
And I've kind of theorized as to why is this interesting to young people, but this other style of music in this exact same area is only old people. And generally what it comes down to is that it's fun to be out at night playing music with your friends, and it's a little bit fun and a little bit naughty, to be out there at 2 in the morning, patrolling the streets, banging on things. It just has a kind of an attraction to young people, whereas music that's played in other contexts is maybe not as attractive to them.
Some people blame technology for wiping out traditions and traditional music, but Palmer said he doesn't think that the two, technology and tradition, always have to work against each other.
And people tend to see these things as being in opposition, whereas I really don't believe that. I mean, so much, basically the work that I do is dependent on technology, whether it's recording technology or whether it's the internet, streaming audio, YouTube. These are all things that make the work that I do possible, but they also make it easier for people, not just through our archipelago, but through any, let's say social media. That's a form of technology, right? Internet, smartphones. This is getting people in touch with the music of Indonesia or the music of their place in a way that maybe they couldn't before, right? So people can find videos of traditional music on YouTube that maybe they didn't even know existed, and maybe it's in the village next door, I get comments on my YouTube videos all the time of people saying, "Oh, I'm from Western Mantra, but I had no idea this music existed here. Okay, I'm gonna go look for it." So technology is a really important tool. I mean, not just for researchers, but also for the community, right? Because it's another way of getting in touch with the arts, with culture, with music. It's just another medium.
He said he knows the project will have to end someday, but that it's a foggy ending. He hopes to someday reach Achinese music and explore Papua, but those are just dreams. For now.
Okay, at some point I'm going to have to stop doing this, but then every year I'm still finding more and more that's interesting to me, and still loving the experience of living in Indonesia and doing work and sharing the work with the world. And each year I find more and more people follow the project. So logically I tell myself that it's gonna stop eventually, but then it just keeps going.